Victoria.
Hey ho.
Welcome.
Welcome to your favorite exes. And yeah, this is our first episode, which is really exciting. Our intro episode to getting to know us and really what this podcast is about. So yeah, we are living in Barcelona, which is crazy, together. Best friends of like almost 13 years, which is also wild.
Yes, it is.
Because 13 years started in college, which not when we were born. So, like some people, this 13 years could mean anything. You could be friends since you were 12, but unfortunately, that is not the case for us. AKA, yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. But we are now 13 years since September 2012.
Yes, when we met at Northeastern University in Boston, college town, and we met during sorority recruitment because I was in a sorority and you were joining a sorority and I was looking for a little. I was on a mission. I was like, I'm going to get this little baby freshman who's like, oh, what's salad? What's sorority life? And then I met you.
Same age for the record.
It was not the vision, but it was love at first sight. And I was like, this will be my little.
Before I even joined the sorority, Hope was convinced. And to be fair, like if you've never been through recruitment, basically, at least at Northeastern, what they did was they gave you like a little piece of paper so you can like write down after every like room you went into to talk with the different sororities. And I literally wrote down like the first person I spoke to was Hope. And I was like, okay, Hope, love her. And I still love you, 13 years later in Barcelona.
I love you more. I love you more than I did every day.
Basically, we're in a relationship and you didn't know that.
Yes, we call each other our other husbands because we are married. Fun fact, not to each other, although you would think that your fairite exes like could be, but
our husbands might be confused too, but
they have also been married. We're basically like a quad now.
Exactly. Whether they like it or not, they did not get a choice.
No, they did not.
But anyway, yeah. So obsessed with each other for the last 13 years since sophomore year of college, which is forever ago. But
yes.
And it's been like so much since then. We started in Boston, our friendship, and now we have ended up in Barcelona together, which is absolutely wonderful and special. And part of the reason why we wanted to start this podcast was to discuss and talk about living abroad and how we got here and just what that's like. Like, it's such a different experience. It's not what we knew growing up. And there's a lot of learnings, and we just know that a lot of people are thinking about it, or if you've ever thought about it, it seems kind of out of reach. But we wanted to talk more about, what that's like, because we can say like recently, I've been here. So to give you some backstory and intro, like I've been here since November 2020, which
that was the only thing that happened that year.
Nothing else happened in 2020. Super normal year, no big deal. But basically, like, to give you backstory, like, I grew up in Boston my whole life and went to Northeastern, which is also in Boston. And after Boston, lived nearby. And honestly, just my husband and I, Chris, really, really wanted a change. We were like, we want something different. Originally, we looked also within the US. Then we were thinking abroad. We wanted a different experience, live somewhere we had never been. And we weren't sure if it was going to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. We were just kind of like, let's go and see. And if we like it, we stay. If we don't, we come back. It was a purely adventure purpose to live outside of the US. And this opportunity came up for us through Chris's job in November 2020. Well, a little before that. But this was like a work in progress for a couple of years. Like you knew about this.
Yeah, you guys have been planning. Like Chris specifically tried to get a job that would let him go abroad. So you guys were like very intentional about wanting to move.
Yes. And then we made it happen in a weird time in everyone's lives. And yeah, we can talk about that more another time. But yeah, in the end of 2020, in 2 months, like he signed the contract, and 2 months later, we were in Barcelona, had not visited before. We just kind of showed up. And I kid you not when I say that I would have bet a true body part of mine, like an arm, like my toe, I don't even know anything, that Hope would have never, ever left the Massachusetts, but let alone the US. Like if we were going to, like, I would say, okay, maybe she'd live in another state, but like truly never leave the US.
Even that is like expanding the powers of the mind that like I would leave New England. I had this like whole romanticized vision of my life, and it was very specific. And I had my husband, my 2 golden retrievers, the suburban house, the kids,
Yeah.
and I had all of it. Like I got that. And I was so in love with my life and this idea that I would have you living a town over. So you ruined that.
Yeah, it started off not strong.
It started off with mourning. But like, no, I did. Like, I was so happy in New England and I was so happy with the prospect of what my life was going to look like. And then I remember very specifically, this was after my daughter Charlie was born, but before Miles, before I was pregnant with him. And I was sitting outside in our yard, very Boston coded, drinking Sam Summers with Trevor. And we were talking about row falling. And we said, this feels different now, right? Because same with him, like he's totally like a New England hardo. Like him in Barcelona is like a whole spectacle. Like he wants to wear short sleeves all the time. He's like, this is not cold weather. People are like in parkas. So it's like a very different situation than what we had. But we thought about it and we basically said the vision that we had had for our lives that was so clear. And I think a lot of people might be feeling this right now. You have a picture of what your best American life looks like. And things didn't turn out that way, or things look like they might be heading in a direction where you're at least open to considering something else. So for us, it wasn't like, oh, we are never going to come back to the US anymore. There's no way we could be happy here. But it did allow us to say, should we try like a 2-year experiment somewhere else and see what our lives would look like there? And if we could be happy there.
Yeah.
For you, it was more like you were running towards something.
Yeah.
We were more running from something. And again, not to dramatize it, but we were leaving not because we were excited about this adventure and we found things to be excited about. But for us, it was mainly, okay, life here doesn't look exactly how we pictured. What could it be somewhere else? So if you're going to move to Europe, you might as well move and follow your best friend, which is exactly what I did. Which some people might be like, that's weird. And I would say, you're weird.
But like, think about it. Like, we talk about this all the time. Like, people move for their siblings, they move for their parents, they move for their cousins. Like, what's the difference? Like, we've been friends, what is it, past the 7-year mark? We've made it.
And it sticks after 7 years.
Exactly. And we've become family. Like, there's that. And then also, like, I'm the godmother to your first child, Charlie, which is wonderful. And like, I feel like we've been family for a long time now. Like, blood. I mean, I feel like a lot of people agree with this. Like, blood does not make you family.
Yeah.
And it's really nice. It's like a chosen family. You say that a lot, and I love that.
There's nothing wrong with following your chosen family somewhere. Yeah. So I think one of the things, like, to say there's a lot of different ways to get abroad.
Yes.
And maybe you're somebody who's listening to this who has thought about moving forever. Yeah. And you just are kind of like looking for an extra push or to like hear some experiences about it. Maybe you're somebody who thinks they will never, ever, ever move. And might be living in the US right now and be served a lot of Instagram content that's like, should you move? And you're like, maybe I should. And you hear this and you want to hear about it. And then maybe you're just like, I just want to listen to something. Like, I'm just folding laundry. Either way, I think it's just one of those things that we've had very interesting, unique experiences. And we're really dedicated to hopefully creating a community of people who are not necessarily in a specific place, because although our experience is obviously colored by living in Barcelona and living here together, which is wonderful, you had a whole period of time when you were alone. Like you and Chris had not made a community yet. So
you moved, for the record, in May 2024.
Yes, I just moved. I'm new to the game.
Like, we were here for almost 4 years without you. So like it was like a whole other, 2 different experiences, 2 different reasons for why that we moved. But the like kind of how this podcast started was, so Hope moved obviously like a few months ago, like less than a year ago. And we, mind you, we're sitting in her empty apartment. Well, there's like a few things, but there's empty,
furnished, no fridge.
No, nothing on the floor, just with our 2 children. Like, and we're just trying to like keep everyone alive.
Yeah, we basically have like the kids are sleeping. Victoria and I are on the floor eating takeout while Trevor had to go back to the US to get the dogs. And we're sitting there and like, this is so bizarre. Should we start recording this? And we did. And I think like that was, it's so nice that we have like those moments, but that was kind of when this idea was born of like, this is like a really interesting thing we're doing. 2 American best friends who lived next to each other on different sides of the streets. Then we lived an ocean away. Now we're living in the same city again, but on the other side of the world. And what does that look like?
And two different times in our lives. Like,
Yeah.
you have 2 kids. I don't have kids. Like that, there's 2 different points in our lives. Also, different reasons we came here. I'm telling you, I would have bet my arm. Like, I would have not had an arm.
Victoria would have been missing a body part.
Truly. So thank God I did not bet anyone this because I would have lost.
Like, do you think, like, for so many people, they had this idea and they were in love with this vision of what their life looks in the US. And I think more and more people are feeling like maybe that's different than what they pictured. And they are just more open. I think that was the thing. I was just more open than I ever had been. Like when I had that conversation with you about I would literally never live outside the US, it wasn't because I thought outside the US was bad. It was just I was very content with my situation. And then I was growing discontent.
Yeah.
And it was interesting too, because we basically made a bet. We were like, we don't like the direction things are going, but we did kind of have a luxury of time to like noodle it around, have hard conversations. Whereas I think right now people might be feeling like, I feel like I need support. And we really just wanted to be that for people. Like at the end of the day, this might just be like us talking about our experiences and like no one listens to this besides our like 7 friends who are like queued up to listen to it. Right. But it also might be that people have questions. People want to connect with other expats who've done the same thing. And hopefully that's what this turns into.
Yeah. Our goal is to help connect not just about Barcelona, but the idea of moving abroad. And there's a lot of similarities between living anywhere that isn't where you grew up. And I think those similarities is what we're talking about, because I felt like you made a really good point. And this like not only came up because it's a special time in our lives that we ended up in the same place. So it was like, it's just like really nice. We don't know how long it's going to last. So we might as well enjoy it and have fun together and enjoy being a 30-minute walk, which seems far for me still. Yeah. I feel like I need it to be 5. But anyway, but regardless of that, it feels really nice to be able to, when you were, I guess my point was when you were talking about moving and you were asking a lot of questions, and obviously I was able to support in a lot of ways, but I obviously couldn't support in every way because you have 2 kids and I don't have children, but I tried, as best as I could. You were looking for researchers because let's be real here. Hope is like the research queen in every capacity, which I love about you.
Very thorough. Love a Google Doc. Love a Google Sheet. Love a Google presentation.
I'll love
a whole D suite. Very much.
She's great at it. Great at research. So when she was researching, there was like a gap missing. She was like, you basically said, I'm looking for a podcast. I'm looking for someone to tell me something about it. And there's a lot of resources to some capacity, but some of the logistical things and the detailed parts, the feelings that come with it, it gets talked about, but maybe in like a smaller capacity. And we wanted to bring light to a lot of these topics because it is hard. It's not always glamorous as you see on Instagram. What is it? Instagram versus reality. There's like a balance. There's a balance between both. And it's really nice to have, like, there's so many wonderful things. We're really happy here. And like, we took it for an adventure and like, it's been the best. And we're really like, content with our lives. But there are times that things are hard. You're confused. You're frustrated. There's stuff like that. And there's guilt. And there's all these things that come with moving that don't get discussed as often because it's easier to romanticize it than discuss the reality. So we want to do a little bit of all of that and talk about our experiences, hopefully bring people together. I mean, we feel very lucky. And like a lot of times, maybe you move with your best friend or whatnot, but we actually have like 2 separate lives and ended up in the same place unconventionally, I would say.
Yeah.
And we want to share our different experiences and how we're doing it out together. And it's really nice.
And I think that it's one of those things, like you said, like everyone has different experiences. And when I was looking for content, I was like, okay, I could figure out like what's the best neighborhood to live in Barcelona with kids. And there's a million articles, but like I wanted something that was almost not about Barcelona because I had the luxury of having you, which I know not everybody has, but I already had somebody in that way, right? Like somebody to talk about the actual city itself where I was going to move. There were so many like emotional pieces of it. Like I felt so terrible that I was like moving. I'm an only child. I was leaving my parents, taking their grandchildren. Like that was a big thing. And to anything about that, I'm sure there are many corners of the internet. Like somebody probably was talking about it. But for me, I wanted more of like, how did you feel about that? How was moving from your friends? How was being in a different time zone? Because I also had a different experience when you moved here. The world was weird. Everyone was inside anyway. Yeah. So even though you were across the world, it didn't feel like it because we weren't seeing people anyway. And also I was super pregnant. I was then with a newborn. I was up at the hours you were up. So like it didn't, yeah, it worked in a very beautiful way. But then when it came time for me to move, I was looking for more of like, okay, what is it going to feel like? What about these like unanswered questions I have? Just like, what are the weird things that came up for you? Because like we've had unique experiences, but so have other people. So I think that's part of the podcast too, right? It's like, if you don't have a friend like I had Victoria who did this whole move, or maybe you do and it's not the exact same. Like you said, you don't have kids. I have 2 kids. Like, tell us, you know what I mean? Like, what do you want this to be? Because we have a ton of stuff. We never stop talking. Like, you will quickly find that out. We could talk about lots of things for lots of time, but also feel free to really like engage with us. Let us know, like, what are you thinking? Like, we want to be your friend. We want to be your exes in the best possible way. The only exes you like.
Yes. But yeah, exactly. So that's the real goal of this podcast. We're going to cover so many things. I mean, you're going to continue to learn about us. Like, and I just want to state that you came from Boston, but you're originally a Jersey girl. I think that everybody needs to know that like you've also come from a different state.
Just like in case you didn't know.
Truly, I feel like that's the journey. She came from Jersey to Boston, fell in love, and now is in Barcelona. I just need the journey.
Thank you for summing that up. Yes, I did. Hi, I'm a Jersey girl.
But I think we're not just from, we like the story of where we're from, like both of our husbands are from Boston, which is like kind of funny.
I think that's also what's funny because like I came from New Jersey and I went to college in Boston and I immediately was like, I love it here. Like I saw my life so clearly there.
Yeah.
And so I do think that was helpful with moving in a way that was maybe different than my husband, Trevor, because he had been from Boston, similar to you his whole life. But again, you had a different experience. You spent every summer in Greece. So
exactly.
like he had not been to Europe before our honeymoon. So like very different experiences for everyone, but I knew what it was like to fall in love with a place that you're not from. And I think that was helpful with moving abroad. But again, it's so different when you're like 18 and you're packing nothing. You're like going to IKEA to like furnish your dorm and like printing out shit to put on like whatever.
Different
vibe.
a whole,
the vibes were not.
But the point is that like it's different growing up in the place and moving for the first time than at least having one time in your life done a move. Because I think that you said it did change the way you looked at it. Like the same with Chris, my husband, like he really didn't travel much until he met me, which I love to travel. I'm a little travel bug. It's surely forever. And now we travel all the time. Like definitely give him that bug. But like for him, it was a really big move. It was change. Like he wanted it, but I don't think it was the first thing he thought of when he met me. And like I think it evolved over time. But for me, it is a bit different. And I think that's important is that I did grow up with 2 parents that are from Greece. And they came to the US at some point. My mom was 12. My dad was 18. So I went back every summer to Greece. So I did have a connection to Europe. And Europe is massive. It is many different countries, obviously, but specifically to Greece. But so I had traveled my whole life to Greece. So I think it opened my eyes in a different way to when I wanted to live abroad. It was maybe not as scary as if you've never experienced like that before. I used to spend 3 months out of my summer every single year in Greece with my grandparents, my yaya and papu, and my aunts and uncles. So I have family still in Greece. So again, it is a little different. And we'll get into that. But
Jersey girls listening to this being like, I could be her. Like I spent my summers in Cape May. So like I am very Jersey girl. Just to be clear.
But it's like we come from very different backgrounds is my point. Like,
and you're point about traveling too. Like I love traveling for like a few vacations some of the time. Like I really do enjoy it, but not in the same way that you do. Like you are gone, especially the first like year you moved here or after COVID had like settled down. Right, exactly. In the normal times, you had traveled so many weekends. Like there were so many weekends you weren't actually in this new place that you moved to. Versus for me, I haven't traveled to any other country. Have I
traveled? Went back to the U.S.
I went back to the U.S. once for Christmas.
And then Costa Brava, but that's Spain.
That is Spain. I went to Portugal recently.
Oh, with you. Oh my God.
Obviously.
We went together in Portugal and we both forgot.
We were. Good. That's okay. My point being, though, it's really interesting because, again, like, I feel like sometimes you see on Instagram this one version of like this wanderlust person or this wanderlust couple who's so excited to have all these adventures. And like, that does fit you a little bit. It doesn't really fit me.
Yeah.
I really love to like be in a place and like hunker down. And so I've had, I think, a really beautiful life we've established here in like the only 7 or 8 months. Again, very new to the game. But I think that there's so many different ways that people could do this. And that's another thing that I hope people realize. Like, it doesn't have to be this one thing you're fed over and over and over by the algorithm of like, okay, maybe I don't want to necessarily live where I'm living right now, but I'm also not this person who's going to like use all these points to go on all these flights. Like, there are different versions of how you could enjoy your life in Europe if you want to be an expat. And to be clear, I don't even know if we said that. Your favorite exes, it comes from your favorite expats, because that's what we are. We're Americans living in a country that we did not grow up with. So
yeah, exactly. So,
I didn't know that. I didn't know what expats meant, I think, before you moved.
That's the point, is like we're best friends and we love each other, but we're very different. Like, we have a lot of similarities, but we are very different. And what we like to do and stuff, we can talk for hours. That's similar. But we have a lot of differences too. And I think that you don't have to be one specific person to make this move. So I think that part is like special too. We're different. Yeah. We have different backgrounds. We came here differently for different reasons, different families, I guess, situations. And yet, look at us, we made it.
Right.
And we're figuring it out as we go. And this part is we want to build a community around that. And hopefully you enjoy us as well and enjoy listening about the episode. So like, we'll be talking about how we got here, like decisions and opportunities and all of that, how we got our stuff here, the feelings that come around moving when you're here, going back home, what that looks like, family, all of it.
Time zones, international friendships.
Yes. Friendship is a big one. Friendship is a huge one. And we've had experience being long distance friends, best friends too. And we have tons like friends at home, a good group of friends at home too. So all of that. And then new community, what it's like actually coming here. So what's behind, what's new, all of that. So we're going to cover everything. And if you have ideas, obviously we're going to source and ask for ideas from you. But yeah, we're really excited to get this started and do this together, because I feel really like it's special that we get to do it together.
It's just an excuse for me to see you.
Yes, like we need one, but sure. That's like the excuse to hang out and talk. Like, honestly, truly. This
over a decade of practice.
Truly.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love if you consider subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review. And for more content, you can find us on our YouTube channel or on socials like TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook at either Your Favorite Exes or Your Favorite Expats. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to tell us your thoughts in the comments, DM us, or shoot us an email at yourfavoriteexpats@gmail.com.